Hello, listener. Being that this is the weekend that the new Wonder Woman film is coming out, this is something I just have to get off my chest that's been bothering me for the past couple of weeks now. With this whole explosion of white women promoting their victimization and the need to be represented in heroic roles in movies and being deprived of something, it's really gotten under my skin and really irritated me, especially in light of what's been going on over the past several years in big films that come out, science fiction films, big Hollywood summer movies. And particularly recently they had like a woman's only screening of this Wonder Woman movie in Texas or someplace, and it really annoyed me because I have never heard of like a men's only screening of any of these comic book movies that have come out. So it doesn't make any sense. Again, just suggesting that because the movie, we all know that this Wonder Woman movie is for the empowerment of white women alone. There's nothing in this world that links white women and non-white women. No. Anything that white women do is they might put women in front of it like they're trying to appeal to all women. Everything they do is for white women alone. So when they promoting having like a women's only screening is just white women suggesting that they or feel like they're excluded from things, so they're going to exclude other people. And everybody knows white women are not deprived of anything. They're always doing well. In the system of white supremacy, white women are always doing well. They are not victims. I mean, no one on this planet pretends to be victims more than white women. No people complain more. I mean, every day there's some white actress complaining about about the pay gap that exists in Hollywood, saying that women aren't paid as much as men. And it's always white women complaining about that sort of stuff. The Jennifer Lawrences and the Jessica Chastains. Every other day is another news article with them complaining about this stuff. But we all know. I mean, the more I've studied racism over the past several years, I understand the place that white women, have in it. I mean, the whole idea of feminism is just as a tool of white supremacy, of white women getting their piece of the pie, of the racist pie. White women saying, all right, you know what? We don't want to be the mistresses on the plantations that white men own anymore. We want our own plantations. We want a bigger piece of the pie. So white women promote themselves as some sort of minority group themselves so that they can benefit more from affirmative action than any non-white people. White women benefit from affirmative action more than any other group. And yet affirmative action is only ever brought up as if non-white people it was designed exclusively for non-white people. Everything that white people develop, they benefit from it more than anyone else. And white men and white women benefit more from affirmative action than in any people on this planet, and white women particularly, pretending like there's some sort of deprived group that needs help when they already get a piece of everything that white men do anyway. But this whole idea of white women promoting the idea that they are deprived of imagery in movies, it really is bizarre considering over the past, in the 2010s, when you look at, the new Star Wars movies that have come out, always seem to have female leads now. On the Hunger Games movies and the Divergent movies and all of these animated movies like Brave and Frozen, and I would even throw like Zootopia in there because the lead character in that is another one, a female voiced by a white woman. All these heroic roles. I would even throw like Beauty and the Beast or something there too. Another white women in these big hit movies coming out every week, and yet and even up and coming, they're doing like a reboot of Tomb Raider and another comic book movie, Captain Marvel, with that Brie Larson playing. It's all of these representations of white females in heroic roles, and yet white women try to pretend like they're deprived of imagery in big Hollywood movies. Like, I know there has never been a Wonder Woman movie before, but there's been other comic book adaptations of females just in the past, just in the 21st century. There have been a few. They've all failed. They haven't been good, but it's not like they've never done it before. They acting like Wonder Woman, like there's never been another comic book movie about a woman before. I mean, it's ridiculous. They're acting like we've never been here before. This is breaking ground, and and it is totally ridiculous. I mean, just in the early 21st century, I mean, you had Tomb Raider, you had Elektra, you had Catwoman, you had all these franchises, attempts at franchises with female leads. You had Underworld, Resident Evil, Kill Bill, Ian Flux, Ultraviolet, all this kind of these sort of action-oriented attempts at franchises with female leads, and none of them were successful. And you'll notice that only one of those movies had a female lead that wasn't white, and that was Catwoman. And of course, even that, you had Halle Berry, someone with a white parent, and her love interest in that movie was not a black male. It was a non-black male, I think a Latino male, which is significant. But you also notice even today, even in television, you do even have female, like you have like this Supergirl TV show that is just a light, and it follows the same mold as like the Star Wars movies, where the show pretty much is about just how awesome Supergirl is, where she's flawless, and she doesn't, and they just reiterate over and over again how she doesn't need any, and it's all about demeaning all the male characters to make the white woman feel supreme to everyone else. Like, and that's what like the new Star Wars movie, particularly The Force Awakens, it was all about just this flawless white female lead character and reiterating how she doesn't need any men's help, and demeaning all demean the men that are on her side and demean the villain, all just to make her look more awesome. And the Supergirl show is exactly like that, where the men are useless. It's all about just reiterating how awesome she is. And yet the white women try to promote the idea that they are deprived of heroic images of themselves. It is so ridiculous. I mean, it is, especially just in this day and age. I mean, maybe 30 years ago, there weren't that many, heroic roles played by women in movies and stuff. You had the Supergirl movie that failed in the 80s, and you had like Red Sonja, like an offshoot of Conan that wasn't successful, but you didn't have that many. And then in the 90s, you have like the Buffy movie, the Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie that didn't fail. But of course, 5 years after that movie failed, they made the TV show of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and that TV show was successful. It took longer for them to turn Supergirl into a TV show, but they only made that into a TV show to tie in with all these other DC TV shows that they have, like The Flash and all that. And they said, well, we might as well tie the whole universe together, just like they're doing with these movies. But there, of course, you don't see any there in American culture. There are no non-white female heroes in America. You don't see any in leading roles in movies or television. And and white women do not care about that. White women and you're not going to see people putting any money into that idea. I'm just like, you rarely see any heroic non-white males. They'll play more. They'll let them play, like more sort of anti-hero types. Like Luke Cage is kind of an anti-hero, just like Blade was pretty more of an anti-hero than a hero. He killed vampires, but that's about it. They never show any sort of moralistic non-white character in lead roles, particularly a black character. And of course, in big movies, only like non-white actors you see frequently in these big science fiction movies are somebody like Zoe Saldana in Avatar and Star Trek and Guardians of the Galaxy. But she always plays like a supporting character. But you'll notice always her romantic leading man is always a white man. But that's the case with Zoe Saldana's every film she's in. I honestly think that she has like in her contract that she has to be with a white man in every single movie that she's in. Like most non-white actresses in Hollywood movies, like the more sort of more physically attractive people perceive them as being, it's like in their contract they only, and usually in their real lives too, they're with white men. But like Eva Mendes or like Salma Hayek before, like a women that seem to every movie they're in always with a white man. I mean, rarely, unless they're playing a character who historically who existed in real life and they were with a person of the same race, like Zoe Saldana playing Nina Simone, that forced her to be with a black male. But almost every single other movie that she's in, she's with a white man. But apart from that, you don't see any non-white females in these heroic. And you'll notice that, like I said before, about white actresses complaining about the pay gap in Hollywood between actors and actresses. And yet, as soon as somebody like Viola Davis points out how black actresses have it harder than white actresses, the first person to put her down is a white woman. Basically just telling her to just shut up. It's a woman, it's an issue for women, not just black women. I mean, like, to me, it is totally. Me personally, as a black male, I never for a second ever see white men and black men in the same place. I never identify with white men. There is no us. There's no us when it comes to white men and black men. It's them and us. It's them and us. We're not all together. And I assume that any intelligent black female knows that white women, when they talk about feminism, anytime white women talk about women's issues, women's rights, they mean white women. They mean themselves. They do not care about the plight of black females, non-white females in general. I mean, you even had that mayor in Paris, white female, trying to ban some Afro-feminist festival in Paris. Like white women don't care about non-white females and what they are going through. They couldn't care less. I mean, rich white actresses might go on might slum it on the African continent every now and then when they're not at work, bring in food or medicine or something to some African village and making sure to have a cameraman there to make them look like a good Samaritan. Actresses do that routinely. Hollywood actresses to make themselves, it's a public relations thing. White people are very conscious of their public image, and you always have the rich white people who have the time and money to travel to the African continent, going there just to make it look like white people care. And they could not care less. White women are not friends to black females, just like white men are not friends to black males. And to even suggest that white women are deprived of anything is so offensive. I don't have any sympathy for any white women ever. It's like even regarding all this Kathy Griffin stuff. I was like I couldn't care less. Like I don't care. She's holding a fake head of Donald Trump. Like I couldn't. I don't care about Donald Trump, but I'm not going to support her. I don't care about her. She does not need the black people's support. But in the system of white supremacy, anytime a white person is in danger, the first person to come and defend them is a black person. But that black person won't be me. Because white women do not need, they do not need any help. And the whole idea, just anyone suggesting that white women are deprived of anything, it just really irritates me. And I mean, people are even already afraid to even criticize this Wonder Woman movie, where it is just getting unanimous praise. And if you don't like it, then you're going to be called a sexist because racist women, white women, their number one defense whenever they're being criticized or critiqued is you're sexist. Like that's the number one. You're dealing with a racist woman when that is the first thing to come out of her mouth. Whenever you're pushing back on something that she says, you're a sexist. That's how you know you're dealing with a racist woman. They have a playbook that they go to. White women are just it just really irritates me to when people that have so much and pretend like they're deprived of something, deprived of image, especially when it comes to Hollywood. White women. I mean, Hollywood is all about racist propaganda designed to control thought. And Hollywood has been, since the very beginning, doing everything it can to promote white women as like the peak of feminine beauty and conditioning the whole society that sits in front of the television or goes to the movies and spends all their time looking at screens that the ideal woman is a white woman. I mean, that's not, people aren't born thinking that. They're conditioned through propaganda to think that. Yet for white women to suggest that they are deprived of something or they don't get enough representation, I mean, is ridiculous. I mean, of course, as far as like behind the camera stuff, there aren't as many female directors as there are male directors. I mean, it does feel like in recent years, I keep seeing more and more females' names attached to movies as directors, but there are far less non-white directors and writers and people behind the camera as well as in front of the camera. Far less, because Hollywood is an insular, white-owned institution. It's not a public relations institution. When people complain about, Hollywood should make these kind of movies, Hollywood is a insular institution owned by white people and been passed down from generation to generation to generation. It is not owned by the public. When nobody on the outside has the right to tell Hollywood what kind of movies they should make. You cannot pay. You can not pay to see the movie, but you can't tell them what movies they should make because you don't own the studios and you're not financing the movies. They're owned by rich white people who know what their job is to do in terms of shaping thought and putting out propaganda and stuff that they know will sell. And white people in heroic roles sells. That's why they put out, and that's why they frequently put out these big historical films, changing the races of the characters and casting white people. I mean, it's always been a rule in Hollywood. Whenever possible, cast a white person. You know, that's why it doesn't matter if the story is set in the Middle East, if it's set in Asia, if it's set on the African continent, cast a white person if possible. You know, and even to this day, they still will cast white people to play Native Americans, and they'll cast white people to play Latinos, and they'll even cast white people to play Arabs in movies. You don't see white people as much going full on blackface and playing African characters. But white people still routinely play non-white people in movies whenever possible. Cast a white actor. People complain about that with Jake Gyllenhaal and Prince of Persia, and they complained about it with those white kids playing those Asian characters in The Last Airbender, and people complain about it with the Exodus gods and kings and gods of Egypt. And all this historical revisionism, putting all these white people in these big expensive movies, playing these characters that were not white or shouldn't be white. I mean, it's just a routine thing. Whenever possible, cast a white person. So to suggest that white people are deprived, men or women, in terms of imagery, I mean, it's gotten to that point to where these kind of movies come out. White women complain about this, just like white men were complaining when The Force Awakens came out and saying that the movie promoted white genocide because it had a black male and a white female in it. Just when the trailer came out, and now you have like a new Star Trek TV show that has a black female and an Asian female in the lead roles, and you have white people upset about that. Even though Star Trek in the past has had a black male as a captain on a TV show, Deep Space Nine, and it had a female captain on Star Trek Voyager, white female captain, but now you have a captain and a first officer that are Asian and black and both female, and that, of course, is going to anger white men, as if white men are deprived of anything in terms of representation. White people are not comfortable with seeing non-white people in their entertainment, especially out front. Because I personally think that it is impossible. White people are incapable of identifying with non-white people. They're incapable of it. So they find it offensive when non-white people are put out front, especially in something big. And with a brand name on it that is really popular, something like Star Trek or Star Wars or something they feel belongs to the white race, to see a non-white person put out front offends them. They feel like something is being taken away from them. Whereas something like, with Wonder Woman, Wonder Woman was even created by a man. So to have a woman's only screening of a character that was created by a man sounds ridiculous to me. That's sort of suggesting as if I'm sure when the first Superman movie came out in 1978, there were no men's only screenings of it. This is just ridiculous, and it's again, I haven't seen the movie, and I definitely am not going to pay to see the movie. Like I won't pay to see any Hollywood movies. But just observing, reading reviews, and what I've read already, just the people seem to be afraid to say anything negative about the movie, as much as they've been bashing the other DC movies over past few years, Man of Steel and Batman versus Superman and Suicide Squad. But everybody seems to be afraid to criticize this movie, and everybody's saying how wonderful it is and how it's redeeming the DC movies and all that. And I don't buy any of that kind of garbage, but but again, to me, this is it embodies of the place that white women hold in the system of white supremacy. White women are just as devoted to it as white men are. The only difference between white men and white women is their physical anatomy. Their minds are the same. The minds are all about power. They just try to acquire it in a different way. They acquire it through pretending to be victims to gain extra bits that they wouldn't, rather than just through straight force, the way white men gain power. But their goal is ultimately the same. That's all they think about is control and power, pretending to have a different nature, a more nurturing sort of nature than white men. Because people associate that with femininity, with being nurturing and more gentle, and white women are not that at all. They're just as predatory as men are, as white men are. And I can go on and on and on about this. I just need to get that out of my system because it just really irritates me when I when I see people pretending to be victims that are not, particularly white, well, a group like white women. That's all I have to say. Thanks for listening.